the time everyone joins, we could be gone.
That would be great.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Lisa's coming in. Hold on.
Okay.
So I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:04. And Trish, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the numbers, we usually start with numbers. We have 5,364 active cases of COVID in New Hampshire. And since we spoke last week, that's up by 186. On persons recovered from COVID in New Hampshire, we have 4,067, and that's up 482 since last week. So that's a great thing. And then unfortunately, deaths, last time we spoke to now, we're at 326. That's up by 25. So because I really consolidated, the AG's office, Matt Broadhead, spoke, and he wanted everybody to know, and maybe you all have seen it by now on the news, but the governor has a new website now with a timeline, and it's www.covidguidance.nh.gov/timeline. And it basically narrows down the industries that can open and the guidance that applies to them. And as of June 15th, all the industry-specific guidelines were updated. So if you go on to NH Economy, you can look at all the guidances from the task force, and every single one of them has been updated as of Monday. He reminded that it's important to note that although the Emergency Order 52 terminated the limitation on scheduled gathering sizes, if the industry-specific guidance for the business contains mandatory limitations on group sizes, for instance, gyms are only at 40 or 50% capacity, then the businesses have to adhere to those group size limitations. They also, and you probably heard in the news, Emergency Order 51 terminated Emergency Order 4 and 24 and will permit evictions for non-payment of rent to resume after July 1st.
Trish, excuse me 1 minute. Trish,
yes.
Hold on. Diane, could you text Charlie the number? He doesn't have it. He just texted me.
Charlie?
Yeah.
Tell him to hit his recent. It says, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. See why they need us, Diane?
Oh my God.
Oi.
Oi. So then we went to questions, and again, I narrowed down, I think I want to say 10 phone calls. So one of the questions was actually from Larry and I, and we asked at our transfer station, we have a swap pile for free items. Is it okay to resume this practice? Would the town be, this is our question, would the town be liable if someone were to contract COVID from any item they've received on the swap pile? And they responded, NHDES Solid Waste Bureau issued a guidance, and Primex tracked it down, and instead of sending it to me, they sent it to Nancy, but that's okay. She forwarded it to Pete and to myself. And if you did read the second attachment that went with that email, and I'm sure, Pete, you probably did, about the fourth bullet down, it talks about don't start the swap piles yet. It's just not safe to do. Even if it's sitting outside for, a day, they're saying it's just not something that makes sense to start. So I hope you got that, Pete.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So there was another question that said, we've got a proposed plan for a town meeting, but there's been pushback by the residents. We're planning on using the elementary school's gym. However, there's a huge percentage of the population in our town that don't want to wear masks. The answer is they're working on the guidance at the Attorney General's office in conjunction with the Secretary of State, and said that NHMA urges you to wait to host that meeting because there's guidance that's going to tell you your rules for conduct. Another question was, do we have to have a quorum at our meetings for Planning Board and Board of Selectmen? And the answer was, towns can still utilize online meetings if they so wish. They said municipalities can start holding the live meetings. There's no limitation on gathering sizes, but they are recommending social distancing. They advise that people without masks, it's odd, have to have a designated place in a meeting room. So let's say it's a Board of Selectmen and we're in town hall. There has to be a separate area where they stand because they don't have a mask. Also, if there's anyone that's compromised, older, like me, maybe, that you can let those people also be in a separate area, but preferably not with the people that aren't wearing masks. They said, we have to advise the public, and actually the task force already knows this, what will be required upon entering a building. For instance, masks, social distancing, etc. And it has to be posted outside the building. And they also recommend, if you've got a website, to put it on a town website. They reminded that in those meetings, say Board of Selectmen or Planning Board or ZBA meetings, where people may be at a podium, that microphones used by the public need to be disinfected after each use, as well as the podium or the table that they might be either sitting at or standing at. They also said you can still, in your meetings that are live meetings, you also can still allow the public access via a Zoom, as well as the live meetings. Then they talked about a couple things that probably don't pertain to us, but they did talk about breweries and restaurants allowing outdoor games. And they said, no, restaurants cannot allow an outdoor gameplay because they are shared games and would be difficult to maintain social distancing, for instance, like darts. And there is guidance on it on Emergency Order 3. Another department, the fire department, actually asked, do the outdoor attraction guidelines apply to our recreation department outdoor concert series? And they said, yes, we'll include the answer in tonight's sit rep, but we're thinking it falls under the universal guidelines as well as the outdoor attraction guidelines, which was updated on Monday. They said, can we require attendees and members at the select board meetings to wear masks? Is there a guidance for people who have health issues like asthma and whether they need to wear a mask? And yes, the answer is you can absolutely set the rules for the building. Again, post it outside and on your website. You can require masks and you actually can provide them at the door. If you want to charge for the masks at cost, you can do that, but you can't get reimbursed for the masks by state. You can consult New Hampshire Municipal Association and your legal counsel if you believe somebody may have a disability that would make it difficult for them to wear a mask. And again, in the past calls, we've talked about this quite a bit. If somebody says they can't, just take their word for it and let them, obviously from this guidance today, stand in just a separate area. Someone else said, somebody in town wants to hold a graduation party at our town park. What would our liability be if somebody got COVID on town property? And the answer was the local policy would encourage a facility use agreement, which I know we have. The group could also need proof of insurance. And if you want, you can follow up on public health and CDC guidelines, but understand you probably can't escape liability as the landowner. Another question was, should towns look for alternative ways for those that cannot or will not wear a mask to participate in meetings or in planning board hearings or public hearings? And the answer was, you cannot discriminate against somebody with a disability that would prevent them from wearing a mask. Generally speaking, we encourage all municipalities to provide virtual services for those people that may not want to wear a mask. Another question, is there guidance on municipal playgrounds? And the answer is, it remains a local policy decision. Some have closed in March and not reopened. Others have partially or fully reopened. They said you can post signs about the difficulty of cleaning playgrounds. It should qualify for recreational use immunity, but if somebody were to contract COVID, who knows? So I don't think any of, at least the task force, have thought about signs for the playground. So we'll have to maybe come up with what you want at Granny Park, and maybe we can get some signs added to our already list. And then
just
another,
the playground is not currently open.
okay,
And
all
I
right,
don't think our plan is to open it until it's replaced.
okay,
So,
perfect. All right, and the last thing on my consolidation was about boat clubs, private boat clubs. Gee, I don't think we have any. And they said they'll double check for guidance and it'll be in tonight. They always do what they call a sit rep report around, but it doesn't come in until about like 7 o'clock at night. So I covered the swap piles. If I can just cover a little bit on us, that's the consolidation since last Thursday. And I just wanted to share a couple other things. So we covered the swap piles. Primex sent over the information, so Pete has it, and that's great. The task force, we were talking about bathrooms, and could we actually close the bathroom to the public? So I called both legal, the State Department, Primex, and NHMA, and they are sending over something. And actually, she called me because I had already left to come here. The state health department, which I thought was really nice, to call me after hours, and she said, I don't think you're going to like my answer, because we really don't have any guidance. We can't say people can't use the bathroom if they want to, but we also can't say that it's required to have it open. They reminded us that in order to get the COVID virus, it's a respiratory virus, and it's not, it was funny when she was talking about this, it's not transferred to other via poop, or as Kate called it, fecal matter. She said the reason we're always talking about bathrooms is because if, for instance, you cough and you have manners and maybe not a mask, so you covered your mouth, then went into the bathroom and touched the faucets and the toilet paper holder or the paper towels, that's why they're saying clean and disinfect. Nowhere did it actually say you had to clean the toilet seats because you can't catch it from sitting on it. So she was very tactful as how she explained everything, but I wanted to share that. I also wanted to share, and I already sent it to Terry, hopefully she got it. There's brand new guidance that came out on Monday about libraries, so hopefully Terry got that. I also wanted you to know that Mark from Newton Glass advised that the plexiglass panels are on and the channels that they're going to go in are on a waiting list. He is down to 2 suppliers. One said mid-July, and the other one said maybe in a week to 10 days. I told him to try to work on the one for a week to 10 days. He said he'll have enough material to finish to do the town hall, but he may not have enough to finish the library by that July 6th soft opening. I did pick up his check from Kim today. He came to pick it up at my house tonight and said that he's going to try, he'll let us know when he can get in to town hall. And I guess I need to kind of coordinate it with Diane, because we're going to try to do it at the same time for the safety within a day or two of each other. I think we talked about the panel guy coming in maybe on Tuesday, the safety stuff on, not Tuesday, on Thursday, the safety stuff on a Friday, and maybe Tony then can clean on Saturday. I think that's what we discussed. So I'll work on that when Mark calls me back. On another note, I think this is kind of cool that we've completed one Gopher grant so far that we had to submit June 1st. It was for $29,929.86. They actually denied covering the staff for the people that were at home and unable to work because the town buildings were closed. We kind of knew that was probably going to happen. They covered EOC and fire department and police department, but not the people that couldn't work because we were closed. We are now working on the second Gopher grant, as well as now a FEMA grant. The FEMA grant is 75%, and the 25% difference is going to be added to Gopher, which basically means what they said to us when we called them, basically we're going to get covered 100%. They also reminded, and you've heard me say this and Larry say it, any donations that we've received, like PPEs, or labor, which is considered people like, thank you, Jack, for logging on to our Zoom calls, we can count that towards the 25% match, which will really put us in very good shape. And finally, I'm going to end with a coup to Larry. All the orders, the PPEs, everything we've done, sanitation stuff, cleaning products, it's just under $10,000 that went in through the EOC, which is why we kept saying we got to try to order it there. Absolutely free. It didn't cost us a cent. He did another order today, so hopefully we can have supplies for staff for the soft opening, but that's really cool that we didn't have to pay for that $10,000 worth of stuff. And that's the end of my story.
So thank you, Trish, and thank you to Trish and Larry for their efforts with the grants there. So it's nice to see some evidence of their work now that we're getting back, or at least the understanding that we're getting back. So thank you both for all of it. Plus all the, like Kim and Diane and Nancy, all the folks who saved their receipts and all that good stuff. So that was a lot of work.
Also, Diane has been able to help because before we even did the Zoom calls, when we did just the conference calls, she was able to come up with a roster of everyone on the call that I've now been able to call. I mean, some of it, the people are identified, but some it isn't. So I'm able to call them, because if it's a resident that was in on the call, because some of them, again, don't have their names, that's a $25 an hour match for us. So that's really cool that Diane figured out how to do that.
No, and I've got to, I have to call Diane tomorrow and have her walk me through how to do it, because I tried to figure it out today. I couldn't but I'm sure it's easy.
mind-blowing.
All right, so I just
Matt, I have a question for Trish. This is Jack.
go ahead. Jack.
Hey, Trish, you talked about pieces being able to spread COVID-19,
Yep.
and I unfortunately don't have the union leader in front of me, but in this morning's paper, they talked about the spread of the virus through pieces. I wish I had the article here. I'm going to go in the trash and see if I can dig it out. If I can, I'll drop it off at the fire department tomorrow. But it definitely covered that area.
All
Yeah.
right.
And Jack, I actually saw a similar article, which I thought I emailed, and I just emailed it to Trish and the Board of Selectmen to distribute. And
Oh,
I'll make
thank you.
So I would move to never talk about PC again in any of our meetings. Can I get a second?
Yes. But yeah.
But thank you for sharing.
You do
I
the hard job, so no one else has to.
Right.
think exactly.
I have a question too for Trish.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So in here you said that if we were to rent, let people use a park or anything, we
Uh-huh.
would be liable for anybody that had caught COVID-19. I was just thinking about the baseball. league.
Right.
Are we liable for something if one of the kids gets sick?
Well, what they said, if we post that sign, so, granted, I was talking Granny Park, but I wasn't thinking about the ball field. If we post that sign and I can send it to you, or the task force can maybe get it printed up so it can be posted, they said that gives us immunity from a lawsuit. Can somebody still try to sue? Of course, people do. But that will help us if we have that posted
Okay,
about the cleaning.
all right.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Trish put it well, that it's kind of like we talked about mitigation of the disease. This is mitigation of lawsuits. So
Right.
there's no hard and fast rule that we are or we're not going to be liable. It's just we need to take steps. And that's a good idea. Good catch, Diane. And if we can get a couple of those signs up on the ball field, that will help.
Okay.
I
Matt,
did. Did somebody get something to say?
yeah, me, it's Charlie.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Trish a question.
Okay.
Trish, did you find out what we were talking about on the who has authority over the planning board and of opening the planning board or the board of selectmen?
They haven't called me back, one of the parties. I'm waiting for a call back. They believe it's the Board of Selectmen, but I'm waiting, excuse me, I'm waiting for another call back from legal.
Okay. I didn't know if you had said anything because I missed the first part.
No. So this was the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen having meetings start for planning board again, or is it the under the jurisdiction of the chairperson of the planning board? We believe that it's the Board of Selectmen because it's not like a library. The person said to me, like a separate entity, like the library can make their own decisions because it's the trustees. But I'm waiting for I only got one person that called me back. I'm waiting for somebody else.
Okay.
So
question. I
I'm
have a question, Matt.
let me just jump in on that one. I think that's the planning board. I mean, Trish will get us an answer, but the planning board needs a quorum to have a meeting. So if they decide not to show up, there's no meeting.
Right.
So we can encourage them to show up, but if they show up, there's no meeting. Larry, go ahead.
Hold on, I need water.
And
Get
I was
Larry.
gonna say,
So-
we can open the town office, but the,
I got an email from Jen Rowden today. They want to have some kind of a, I don't know if it's an emergency meeting with the planning board, either this Friday or Monday, but they want to hold it in the parking lot up at Town Hall.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, I don't, so they CC'd you on it? So if they want to meet, I don't see why we can't meet upstairs. They're only going to bring in the quorum enough to vote.
Yeah,
I guess it has to do with 125 development, I guess.
yeah. So what I read is she wants to have a meeting without a quorum. She wants a representative or two from the boards. The boards being planning, zoning, and select board to meet to discuss the subject, take minutes and distribute as required. But I don't have a problem going as the chair, and then Larry's in those meetings anyway as the planning board person. But that to me, I don't care if it's in the parking lot or if it rains and it needs to be in the hall, maybe we can figure something out. But hey, if it's any night like tonight, I'd rather be in the parking lot.
Okay. I just want to run it by. I don't know if she CC'd everybody on it.
Yeah, I think it was just you and me from our roles. But she was asking people for availability. So when I see that going on, I tend to wait to see what everybody else is available. But we'll see how that.
Okay.
One thing.
Thank you.
Thanks. One thing I did want to mention. If anybody saw the press conference yesterday with the governor, okay? So the governor was talking about how our numbers are really good. And he did say that he believes the numbers are good because the citizens did what they should do in terms of social distancing to keep the numbers down. So he's asking for people to continue to work to keep the numbers down. So what I'm going to share next is a bit of my opinion, but it was echoed by the governor and Dr. Chan, who is the state epidemiologist. Both of them said, continue to wear masks, okay? We all know there's no rule in New Hampshire that you have to wear masks, but they encouraged residents to continue to wear masks. I know there's stuff going around on social media that the masks don't work, but the people who are smarter than me are saying to wear the masks. So again, just my opinion, but remember, the Surgeon General has said, I'm wearing a mask to protect you. You're wearing a mask to protect me. So again, my opinion, when I walk into some place and I have a mask on and somebody walks up right behind me within a couple of feet of me without a mask on, that says to me that, oh, it's too bad you care, but I don't. So I know this is controversial these days, but I'm just putting it out there to the residents. If you have a mask, wear the mask. Certainly our employees, we already had that long discussion. We know what the employees are supposed to do, but residents, you're going to see it in our new, when we have the soft opening, what the requirements are. And when you come on to other town properties or just when you're going to the store, I highly encourage people to wear the masks still to help with the numbers. And I'm just echoing what the governor and Dr. Chan are saying. So that's my soapbox. Anybody else got anything else? Oh, wow. Any questions from anybody? All right, do I dare ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Lisa. We know everybody's in favor of that one. So our next meeting will be next Wednesday at the same time at 6 o'clock. And make sure you get your
Matt?
Zoom information early. Go ahead,
Matt,
somebody.
we're not going over the task call they had yesterday?
I don't know. Is there anything to share? Those that were.
So I shared about the panels, and that, they may not be in until another couple of weeks. He's going to aim to get everything installed at Town Hall before the 4th of July, is what he said to me when he was at my house tonight. And the signs, the floor signs are already in. The task force is working on a flyer that as soon as we're done with it, we'll share it with the Board of Selectmen so you guys can approve it. It's going to talk about, coming in, you've got to wear a mask, that you will be required to take your temperature at home and let us know what it is when you log in. Let me see if I have that in front of me here. But I don't know that we're quite ready to share it with everyone yet because we haven't finalized everything.
I think
Oh,
that's
okay. I apologize.
No,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Thank you. So I'm sure they'll have more for us next go around, but especially as July 6th gets closer. So,
Right.
all right, everybody. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Night.
We'll see ya. Bye.